Now, a hardwire kit connects to the interior fuse box, and that's in a different location for every vehicle. So the easiest way to find it, and take a look over here on the side of the dash, you could see that's exactly where this fuse box is located. So first, we have the driver's side underneath the dash. If we take a look here, you could see and the other common spot you could find your fuse box is on the passenger side. If we take a look underneath the dash, under the glove box, right here. Just remove this access panel, then we could pop the fuse cover off, and there's our fuse box.
Now you need your hardwire kit, and this has two sides. The USB-C side, which connects to your dash camera, so we don't need to worry about that right now, and the other side, which has 3 wires that connects to your fuse box.
So our red battery positive wire is always gonna get 12 volts. That has to be hot all the time. Then we have our yellow accessory wire, which is only getting 12 volts when the car is running or in the run position. And then finally we have our black ground, which is gonna be connected to a bare metal surface like a bolt. So let's start off with this red wire, which is gonna be hot all the time. And let's find the right fuse that's always supplying power. And to do that, we want the car to be off, and we're gonna use a multimeter to check the voltage at the fuse box.
So you're gonna set your meter to DC volts, and you wanna look for the V with the straight line above it. And if you look at the screen, it says DC, so we're ready to go. Now you can grab your 2 leads, and the black lead you wanna touch to a bare metal ground. And if you take a look right down here, it looks like we have a nice solid ground. And one thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add an alligator clip to the end of my prong here for the ground. That way I could just connect it, and now have both of my hands free. Now you're gonna take your red lead and touch it against the fuse you wanna check. So let's check that out real quick. And with the key off, we have 12 volts. So that makes this a good, always hot fuse to tap. So grab a pliers and let's pull this fuse out. Good. Now the hardwire kit comes with a bunch of different fuse taps because different vehicles use different fuses. So match up your fuse with the correct tap. Now take your radio fuse and push it into the open slot on the fuse tap. And just in case both slots are open for yours, the one that's closer to the prongs should always have the fuse that you're tapping. Now let's put this back into slot 29. So let's line this up and push it in all the way. Good. Now let's verify we have 12 volts with the key off. Perfect. And finally, let's connect the red wire by pushing the pin all the way in so it's fully seated, just like that. Then you want to give it a nice tug, that way you know it's not going to come loose. Good. Next, let's wire in the yellow accessory wire. So this needs a fuse that has no power going to it when the key is off. And then when we turn the key on, there will be power. So let's probe that. So with the truck off, there's no power, which is good. But then if we turn the key to the run position or accessory position, boom, 12 volts, perfect. Now since there's no fuse in number 15, it's an open slot, we don't need to add a fuse to our fuse tap. Leave it just like that. But one thing I do want to mention, fuse taps are actually directional. So the outside of the fuse tap is where the power comes in. That means the outside metal prong on the fuse tap has to be the one that touches the metal prong in the fuse block. So the outside prong on the fuse tap goes to the metal prong in the fuse box, like so. And let's test this real quick with the truck off. Good, there's no voltage. Now let's turn the truck to the run position. Good, 12 volts. So we're good to go here. Now we can connect that yellow wire to the fuse tap and be sure to push it all the way in and then give it a good tug to make sure it's tight. Good. And finally, the last thing we need to do is wire in this ground. Now we need to find a good ground, and you might be tempted to use one of these bolts here. And while this does look good because the bolt is bare metal, if we unscrew this bolt all the way and then remove it, then we could pry this back and take a look, and you can see this screws right into plastic, not metal. So this isn't grounded. So even though it's a bare metal screw, it's not grounded. So although it looks like a good ground at first sight, it really isn't. It bolts right into plastic. So instead, let's go use the ground we've been using to test all the circuits right here. So remove the alligator clip, unscrew the bolt all the way, and then we want to slide the ground wire over the base of the bolt right next to the head. Now let's carefully get this bolt back in, making sure we don't knock the ground wire off, and then tighten it down all the way like that. Good. So with the power, accessory, and ground wires connected, now before we go and run our wires up the A-pillar over to where the dash cam's gonna be, let's go test this out to make sure we don't buy the fuse box. And you wanna be very careful when dealing with the headliner. Never do this, what I'm about to do. I'm just trying to show you. The headliner could fall down very easily and start sagging. You see that? That would not be good. So when you're tucking the wire in, make sure you tuck it on top of the headliner. There's a piece of cardboard that this material is glued on. You want this wire on top of the cardboard. And then just push it back just like so and work your way down the headliner towards the A-pillar. And real quick, your way across and carefully push the wire into the headliner. That way it won't fall out when you hit the brakes.
Alright, so now the wire has been run up from our dash camera across the headliner to our A-pillar. Now this A-pillar does not have any airbags. The only airbags in this truck are this and the passenger airbag, so we don't have to worry about taking this off and running our wire around the airbag. I'll show you how to do that in the Prius, which we'll do in a second. But in this case, we do not have to remove this A-pillar trim. We could just tuck this right in and run it all the way down to our fuse box. And we're almost done here, so let's finish this up.
So now I'm gonna grab the end of the A-pillar trim and pull it back away from the windshield. That way I could tuck the wire in behind it like that. Then you can use the plastic trim tool that comes with the dash cam to help you push the wire into the trim. And as you can see, this trim tool makes it a lot easier to push the wire in such a tight spot. Now just work your way down the A-pillar, tucking that wire behind the trim until it gets to the bottom. Then at the bottom, just tuck it in between the dash and the trim. And finally, just grab this. We're gonna pull it down in here. Beautiful. Now that it's in here, it's tucked away. All we need to do is get this all organized, tuck it in, put our cover back on, and we're good to go. So just gather up the excess wire into one bunch, then grab a zip tie and tighten it down so it keeps the wire together. Then to cut the zip tie, you want to use one of these, a flush cutters. Now let's cut the tag end off. Good, and this tool leaves behind no sharp ends to cut your hands or damage wires. Now with the wire all, tuck the extra wire behind the fuse box, and we can get this back there as well. And finally, there's some more excess wire that needs to get tucked in there. Now we could reinstall the fuse box cover. Perfect. And there you go, that's how you properly hardwire a dash camera